There was no mistaking who the star of the day was. As the autograph hunters huddled around new manager Alex Ferguson, the players slipped by almost unnoticed.
All you're interested in at the time is getting the best man for the job.
He was instantly part of the history of this club.
Stapleton, so close.
But he didn't have much time because I think he came on a Thursday and we had to travel on a Friday to Oxford and the game was on the Saturday.
Slatter, that's a fine try.
Alex came in and quickly stamped his authority.
Like it or lump it, in November time we were in the relegation scrap.
Brock's involved again, and it's turned in.
And I remember Maurice Evans, the manager of Oxford at the time, nice man, after the game says, I don't think you realise what you're taking on.
United fans were nearly drowned by the sound of the cameraman's shutters as Ferguson took his place in the hot seat.
Welcome to the dreaming spires of my home city, Oxford, with its world-famous university and over 800 years of academic and architectural heritage. But in the mid-1980s, this picturesque old city was the birthplace of a different kind of history, football history. This is the story of those who took part in Sir Alex Ferguson's first match at the helm of United. This is the tale of Fergie's first 11. It really was a different era. United were dangerously close to the relegation zone.
I've had great admiration for Ron Atkinson. I think he was a really good manager. But you know that he had great faith in the players he had, and he had them for a few years, hoping they would get that, and he was second or third and win the 2 cups.
I've never had what is known in the game as the vote of confidence. 1 minute I'm there, 1 minute I'm not. I had got wind of the fact that he'd been approached, but you know, that's the way the game is. That's the way the game goes. So. No problems there.
Back in 1986, this was the site of the Manor Ground, home of Oxford United. It was here on November the 8th that 44-year-old Alex Ferguson began his United dynasty. His appointment had been swift. An enormous task lay ahead.
I always wonder whether older players can take a lot of challenges, you know, and I think there was just too many older players.
So Ferguson inherited an ageing squad. Incredibly, his original team sheet has survived the test of time. Let's start to take a look at those players who took part.
He's got Fergie in space, a lovely ball for Fergie! And some great work by Turner.
The team was always capable of winning games. It was a changing period for the club. Ron Atkinson had a great rapport with the players. He had departed earlier and a new manager was on the scene. You'd only heard little bits and bobs from what Gordon had worked with him up in Scotland, so you didn't really know what was coming, and it was a lot of, you know, up in the air sort of situation.
It's going all the way! Oh, it's saved for the last by Turner! This is Duxbury, and now Whiteside, and now Duxbury, yes!
With some very, very good players that, you know, most clubs would have been happy to have. Probably most clubs, I don't know, in the modern day would be happy to have. So I don't actually know what was wrong at the time.
In from Robson, and that's Stapleton, and that's Moran.
We knew each other well, you know. Huggy had played there lots of times, you know. Mickey Dux was right back for England, Arthur was left back for Scotland, so
There was a lot of international players on that pitch.
Hogg getting in before Walsh. Young Graham Hogg, 19-year-old Scot.
Alex came in and quickly stamped his authority and let us know really what was required.
Forward from Robson. Now Augustin. Played through by Stapleton. Here's Augustin.
We'd all played together quite a lot of football. Graham Hogg being the youngest out of a lot of us, but the Scotland under-21 player, and he played in big European games here, so it wasn't a problem.
A goal! Hogg flicked it on. Robson applied the finishing touch.
So the defence had to get used to a new boss, and not for the first time with Sir Alex, the media were caught off guard.
Very quickly, they appointed Fergie. And I didn't know him. And I got a phone call from the producer of Saint and Greavesy, a fella called Bob Patience, who sadly passed away this year. And he said, look, you know, Fergie's a good mate of mine. Would you go and interview him in Oxford the morning of the game and get the tapes back to London Weekend Television to go on the Saint and Greavesy show? Never saw a player, didn't know the team, didn't see the game, did the interview with Fergie, hurtled off to London Weekend Television, and it was edited and it went on Saint and Greavesy probably 40 minutes after I got through the door.
How do you feel this morning? Refreshed, relaxed, or what?
Oh yeah, I think emotionally it was a heck of a day yesterday. I mean, probably 3 hours sleep the whole day yesterday. You know, that's from Thursday night. But I feel good now. I'm really honest. I'm looking forward to the match today. So excited about it.
One final word. Ron Atkinson's in the studio with Saint and Greavesy today. I just wonder, you know him well. I just wonder whether you have a word of consolation for him.
Well, I've been trying to phone Ron, you know, yesterday, but I kept saying to the secretary, try and get me Ron now, and then something else would happen and that type of thing, but I will speak to him. I mean, I said that to the players yesterday. I'm glad they cared about Ron Atkinson. You know, that most of them were really sorry what had happened. And if they show that kind of care for the manager, then we've got a real good chance.
Well, I'm joined by Martin Brodetsky, Oxford United's award-winning programme editor. But Martin, no danger of your predecessor winning an award for this programme, because it's all about Ron Atkinson's team. Sir Alex doesn't get a mention.
Well, of course, in those days, pre-technology, there was no emails, nothing you could do. Once it went to press, that was it. You know, stuck with what you had.
What do you remember about the day itself?
Well, my main memory is of the media frenzy outside the ground when the Manchester United coach turned up, and then, of course, when the team came out onto the pitch with Sir Alex Ferguson, as he was then. It was just around the dugouts and around the tunnel, it was just full of photographers. Could hardly see the bench at all.
Blackmore strikes a tremendous ball, and just 3 in the wall, including Valderrama. Blackmore shot, and it's in there! United have scored!
We had Big Paul playing in midfield. I think he played in midfield that game, and you know, for me, one of the best centre halves I've ever played with, ever seen. And I mean, that proves how good he was. He could play in midfield. It wasn't the only game he played in midfield. He played quite a few games for the club. I think he had Remy Moses alongside him, so it was we had a strong middle midfield there.
Here's Peter Barnes.
It wasn't a full strength team for Sir Alex. The first, I think, 6 or 7 games, players were injured.
McGrath saw it early. Good pace, good control. Or was it? Yes, it was.
Alex's first game, and he put me in midfield, which I wasn't too happy about. I don't think we were really seeing eye to eye as to, you know, but he put me in midfield, and it wasn't a great game for me anyway.
I decided to play Paul McGrath in centre midfield along with Remy Moses, who was his first game back. So there was a lack of real energy in that department simply because they hadn't been playing.
Right side, Stapleton! 2 goals in 2 minutes!
I always looked up to Frank. I liked playing with Frank because he was a good target man. As a midfielder or as a defender, you need somebody you can play up to.
And it's there! And it's Stapleton!
If you're playing well, you just coast through matches. You can play any team because confidence is high. Confidence was very low at that particular point in the season.
Peter Davenport was the second striker, one of Ron's last big money signings, a Birkenhead boy who was a United fan and England international.
Peter was a very, very good player. Like myself, we'd been in and out. We would be in and out of the team, and you wouldn't be able to get a relationship that worked. That you have to play regularly with somebody to work up to, so for things to work out.
It's a good run by Davenport. At the end of the day, he shouldn't have been allowed to get in front of McCarthy, threatening to the net.
With just 2 days to put a team together, the new manager knew he'd have to rely on his newly inherited coaching staff to select the side.
What does a new manager do when he comes in? He doesn't really know all the players that well. So he has to be guided certainly by the coaching staff, and I remember that it was more to do with Brian Whitehouse, who was the reserve team coach at that time, who actually guided him, and I would have said that he picked the team more than Alex Ferguson did on the day.
I knew Gordon Strachan was injured for a start because I knew all about Gordon. He saw quite a few players injured at the moment. Brian Robson, Norman Whiteside, John Sieverbeck, Jesper Olsen. I think Paul McGrath maybe back training this week, and I'm saying to myself, bloody hell, that's a good start. And then we got to the training ground. Brian Whitehouse was the reserve coach at the time, and Brian gave me a summary about who was fit and who was not fit.
When they went to Oxford, they did have a lot of injuries. There was players who wasn't really 100% fit. They were trying to perform as well as they could, but they got these slight injuries and things like that. Because you got to watch the opposition play sometimes. And I thought they were on a bad side actually, and. I think our lads tended to think, oh, it's going to be a bit easy, this one. And they thought it too much, really.
A 13,500 crowd squeezed into the Manor that day to see the start of a new United era. The travelling Reds were packed into the Cuckoo Lane end, just about where those flats are now.
Obviously the M40 weren't there at that point, so that's the first thing I remember about it. We got there quite late, and the place, it was like a little ginnel trying to get in the place, and it was a bit of a crush. But we did manage to get in for the kick-off, but it was a bit early really trying to get in there.
It all started at Oxford, in a sea of despair.
To be honest, we didn't see many Oxford fans because we parked up near the ground, walked down, it were all United fans on the road we were on, and then as you got nearer, like I said, we're in this ginnel, so we only met the Oxford fans afterwards.
I worked at the assembly plant then in Cowley, and there was a number of Man United fans there. They was outnumbered obviously, but they was always giving a stick out how easy it was going to be, in other matches over the years as well, and this was no different.
There was no optimism. Nobody really came out of that game looking forward to the rest of the season.
I mean, I can picture the back of the goal now at the top end. The bank was absolutely full of United fans, but then you get them all around in other parts of the ground as well.
Oxford themselves weren't a bad team. Managed by Maurice Evans, they'd won the League Cup the previous season. I'm joined by Les Phillips, Oxford's number 4 that day, on the front of the programme as well. Les, no change at all in the 26 years since. How keen were you Yellows to ruin Alex's big day?
Well, to be honest, we treated it like a normal game. Always said forget about all the attention that Sir Alex Ferguson was getting and just play a normal game because a win was vital for us.
The Yellows, Oxford, had a good side in those days.
We had a great side. As I say, we won the Milk Cup before, the season before, and we had a strong team, and we were forced to be reckoned with in them days.
Having taken his place on the bench, Alex was surprised at who was sitting next to him.
He was a city coach driver in the 70s, larger-than-life coach driver from Finglands on Wimslow Road. Ron liked everybody, and he liked Big Derek, the coach driver, and made him sit with the physio on the bench and be part of the team and carry the skips in with the boys. But of course, when Sir Alex came, that wasn't Alex's man, and he didn't want the coach driver sitting on the bench listening to team talks and listening to tactics, which is not right for a coach driver to be in the changing room listening to tactics.
Del Boy was a fanatical Man City fan. He really was. And a big guy, but he'd been a wrestler or something, so he was quite handy to have around. There was no, he could sort of muscle his way into places, and I found him terrific. Now, I know after I left there was some sort of discussion and he wasn't on the bench, but I never found it a problem.
While Ron was the manager, he had like freedom in the dressing room, could come in when he wanted, go out when he wanted, come in when we came in at half time, he'd be pouring the cups of tea for the players that he had in them days. And I think that alarmed the boss, because, you know, he's seen the coach driver pouring the teas out for the players at half time.
Well, I gave him a ticket at half time. I says, do you go up to the stand? He said, well, I always sit on the bench. I said, well, no, you don't. You know, it's one of these situations that, you know, they get in the habit of doing something, you know, and then, of course, it's not something I wouldn't have done, you know. I didn't even know he was on the bench in the first half, you know. And then I come on in the second half and he's still sitting there. And I said, well, you got a ticket and go upstairs, you know. It was unbelievable.
Played Manchester City, and he picked us up, took us to the hotel for a pre-match meal, brought us back, drove us to Main Road as it was then, and when we got off the coach, went straight on their bench.
So here's the full lineup. Chris Turner in goal. Protecting him, his back 4. At right back, Mike Duxbury. Left back, United stalwart Arthur Ulverston. The 2 central defenders, Graham Hogg and Kevin Moran. The midfield consisted of Paul McGrath, Remy Moses, Clayton Blackmore and Peter Barnes. Up front, the strikers were Frank Stapleton and Peter Davenport. Jesper Olsen was substitute. He replaced McGrath late in the second half.
No disrespect to Oxford, but we were Manchester United going there, and we should have had enough about us to go there and get the result. We didn't do it. We just didn't do ourselves justice. I don't think we underestimated them. I think we just didn't play. We didn't perform. Whether it was because the new manager coming in and there was a little bit more stress on the players.
Aldridge dangerous again. Manchester United in trouble again.
John Aldridge always scores goals. Shotton and Briggs at the back, you know, were up against on that particular day. Frank Stapleton and Peter Davenport got no change out of that. Very few people got change out of Shotton and Briggs.
It's a great strike by Frank, and usually they go in the back of the net. This time it didn't.
Hooked on by Blackmore. Stapleton, so close.
I actually remember on the day, I probably should have scored, but I think that it was. The game is more of a blur certainly now, but obviously remember there's results for a long, long time.
Now Houghton making a nuisance of himself. Comes for Slatter. Slatter, that's a fine try.
Houghton made them tick, you know, and you had to watch Aldridge for every minute of the game, because he would drift in and out the game and be very quiet. But within seconds, he would pop up and score.
My recollections are right. I think I may have given that penalty away. So I wouldn't have been too happy about that at the time, and certainly not the sort of thing you want to do to impress the new manager.
It breaks for Aldridge. Oh, he's been caught by Moran. That's a penalty. And here's Aldridge. Goal, his 14th of the season.
Remember my colleague Kevin Moran. Got a little bit too close to me. I think I turned him and he upended me. It was a cast iron penalty, and I remember I took it to turn his right hand side. He actually nearly got to it, but I got a bit of pace on it. That guy did into the corner. Man United fans all behind the goal, obviously not too happy, but it was nice.
Drops for Barnes. Barnes on the burst here.
Oxford was a good team in those days, of Ray Houghton and John Aldridge and John Truitt and people. You know, it was a good side to play against.
Manchester United have been really second best today, all over the pitch. Here's Blackmore though.
I think it's the first time I played against Oxford, so I didn't really know what to expect, and they had some real tough lads at the back, tough lads up front, some good players mixed in, and it was a good blend really.
A corner for Oxford United, 10 minutes to go now. They've still got the lead, which they've had since the 15th minute. Retrieved by Houghton. Brock's involved again, and it's turned in by Slatter. 2-0.
It was nice looking back on what Sir Alex has achieved, which is phenomenal. Absolutely brilliant. It's nice to be the first player that's ever scored against him and the first defeat in his reign.
Alex Ferguson straight away knowing the size of his task in his new job with Manchester United. Oxford United 2, Manchester United 0.
When I went back to Aberdeen that night, and there was a journalist from the Daily Record in Scotland, Ian Broadway, was on the plane with me, and he says, "What are you going to do?" I says, "Thanks, Ian."
2 weeks later, the boss made his Old Trafford bow. He picked up his first win, courtesy of a John Sieverbeck strike. The Ferguson-led recovery was underway.
And what a way to end with a 5-all draw.
So an inauspicious start to a great United career for Sir Alex. What an incredible journey it's been though, starting all those years ago at the Manor and ending here in dramatic style at the Hawthorns. 9,691 days, 1,499 matches. In that time, 38 major trophies have been won. Above all, Sir Alex has given us fantastic entertainment. Boss, thanks for everything.